Hi, everyone. Today we're going to talk about what is the OBIM FOIA? Oh, lots of letters, lots of acronyms, right? Let's go ahead and get started. I'm Ruby Powers with Powers Law Group, and been practicing for 14 years. Have my own firm, and we're a full-service immigration law firm helping individuals with their immigration needs all around the world in the U.S. For U.S. immigration, from employment, investment, family-based naturalization, and complex citizenship, asylum, humanitarian, and immigration court needs. So let's go ahead. We're going to do a deep dive on just this Freedom of Information Act request. So maybe you didn't know what FOIA meant, but Freedom of Information Act request is FOIA. And it is a way to find out more about your file, your history, your past, what immigration, what anybody. There's lots of different ways to FOIA have on your case. So we're going to talk specifically about the Office of Biometrics Identity Management Freedom of Information Request, and we're going to go into a little bit more detail on this. So normally when we do FOIA presentations, we talk about all the different types of FOIAs and how to find your case, your files, right? And having attended the American Immigration Lawyers Association conference recently, they have a session called your secret weapon of FOIAs and how to use them. And honestly, it is a secret weapon. A lot of clients think that we can just Google people's records. We can't, unfortunately. And so really, when people come to us and they say, I was, caught then, or I had an interaction here, or I did this or did that, and they don't have any record, and this is pretty much the first thing we start talking about. And so if there is a form of relief, if there's something eligible, if their child's about to turn 21, the best thing to do is to start doing your FOIAs and research far in advance, because some of these things can take months. And then once you have the record, you need to analyze it. So the Freedom Information Act is to ensure informed citizens vital to the functioning of democratic society. And so since 1967, they provided the public the right to request access to records from any federal agency. So that's right. FOIAs can be from many places, anywhere, actually. There's Customs and Border Patrol, there's Department of State, Department of Labor, immigration, EOIR, Executive Office Immigration Review. There's lots of different places to FOIA. And in fact, there's even some type of version of FOIA for state documents. And it gets even into more complexity. Sometimes agencies emerge, right? Like Department of Homeland Security was created in 2003. And so sometimes you have to figure out, well, if this record's from this year before, you have to go here or here, what have you. And so federal agencies are required to disclose any information requested on the FOIA unless it falls under one of the 9 exemptions. So we'll go over that briefly. So the Office of Biometrics Identity Management so why would you do this FOIA? Well, they'll tell you about interactions you or an individual had with Customs and Border Patrol on protection that were fingerprinted or where a photograph was taken. See, okay. That is really essential, because this is the thing. If you just do a CBP FOIA, what do you do when you do that? You just put the name, date of birth, and some information. But if the date or the date of birth was inputted wrong or given wrong, then you could completely not get the record. When people have gone to attorneys or try to do this on their own and they've done only the CBP FOIA and nothing shows up, sometimes mistakenly they'll say, oh, well, there's no interaction, I won't talk about it. Well, you shouldn't do that, because multiple reasons. One, you need to tell the truth. But second of all, there could still be a record somewhere. And the other thing is that this is sort of a sidebar, but super important to this topic. A lot of times you have to appeal your FOIA results when they're blank to actually start seeing something. And I've seen that happen many, many times. So in the past, if someone just did a CBP FOIA and nothing showed up, it still maybe was a different name and date of birth, or it needed to be appealed. So I started doing these several years ago, but I haven't done these my entire practice because I didn't realize that this was the best way. This is sort of a combination of the CBP FOIA and the FBI background check. The reason is when you submit it, it requires the name, the alien number, immigration number, if you know it, and the date of birth, a photo ID, and a fingerprint card, because they're going to tie it to your fingerprints. Now, if it was before a certain year, the interaction, sometimes they did not have the individual have their fingerprints and biometrics. And so that could be a reason why something doesn't show up. But this is very great to do because there was a lot of difficulty with the CBP FOIA not providing enough information. Processing time can vary on the records. Now, when you get the result back, they might say, oh, we can't give you that because it's to protect national security or some internal personal rules or one of these 9 reasons. And then they'll just redact it in black, and then they'll say exemption 6, 7, 8, whatever. So the key is that to be able to read from when you do get the results the best you can, so that you can use that information to your benefit. So generally the form is the G639, and it's 5 pages long, and you're providing information and asking for this, and then you're also wanting to submit the fingerprint form as well. And so, there's ways to submit it, and it's once you submit it and you get the results, then there's also the importance of being able to know how to read it. Sometimes when they put in data, it might look as if there was an interaction, but it might have just been that the government was putting in some information. And so it can be alarming. That's even to the experienced practitioner, they still have questions when they're reading these between the redactions and the interactions. So what I generally advise is if you had interactions at the border, to do an OBIM FOIA and a CBP FOIA. If you ever had anything to do with immigration court, I would do an EOIR FOIA. And I believe if it was before 2000, you would have to send it to another location as well. I think USCIS FOIA. But it really depends on years. And so I don't have that all memorized, but what is important is that you go to somebody, whoever you're doing FOIAs with, or if, it can be challenging. You might think if you try to do it on your own, it's simple because it's just a form. But if you don't fill it out properly, they might say they can't find it. Also, they might give it back blank, then you should appeal it. And then sometimes what happens is we'll do multiple FOIAs at the same time. And then when we get some information from one, then we'll try to update another, or maybe file a complete new one for another location. So the FOIA business is actually can be complex. We've been doing it for quite a long time. And, it just breaks my heart when people come and they're like, I want to file something right now. And then there's something happened in the past. And then we're going to have to spend a whole maybe year potentially just doing FOIAs. The other thing is that we've seen when people come to us that had a bad interaction with another, with maybe somebody who was an attorney or attorney who didn't have that much experience, what have you, that they might have filed for something and then there was a problem because FOIAs were not properly made. And so that is really important that is done properly. I've also realized a lot of attorneys don't realize the different types of FOIAs there are, why to do the different FOIAs. And when we do consults, just for give you an example, we have an entire sheet that has all the FOIAs that you possibly would probably want to do with immigration, why you would want to do those FOIAs. And it gives also like a cheat sheet for dates in terms of where to send the FOIA for which particular interaction. So, and to completely prove that I am a FOIA nerd, I went to Lee Summit, Missouri, and had a private tour of one of the FOIA facilities. And it was great. It was a private tour. I basically got to see how they process things, what they do, their focus on digitalization of files, and just sort of like how the history of where a file goes in the process. There's a cave for the cases that with USCIS that are 5 years and older. Then there's a cave for the ones that are more recent. And of course, that one was a great opportunity for USCIS is the custodian of A files, and so that is where these files go. They also showed me when there's duplicate A numbers, and having to consolidate those files when that happens. Okay, so you can stay in touch with us by watching us on the immigration updates, our weekly webinars. We're all over the place, I feel like, from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And so today was OBIM FOIA. Next week, we're going to be talking about prosecutorial discretion updates. And we even have our July schedule already. So stay tuned and we'll see you next time. Thanks.